Hello and welcome to Rappler Talk. I'm Sophia Tomacruz. Earlier this month, military officials claimed that the Communist Party of the Philippines was recruiting students from at least 10 universities to take part in a supposed plot to oust President Rodrigo Duterte. Students, professors, and school officials, though, slammed the armed forces of the Philippines for what they said were baseless and dangerous accusations. University officials likewise reminded the government of the importance of defending academic freedom. Here to talk to us more about that today is the University of the Philippines Vice President for Public Affairs, Jose Dalisay, and the Ateneo de Manila University's Vice President for Social Development, Jaime Hofelenia. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Thank you too. So,
I'd like to start by asking the both of you, what were your initial reactions when the AFP claimed that students had supposedly been recruited to oust the president? What did you make of these claims?
Well, there are a couple of things to unpack here. One is the charge that UP has been producing rebels and so on. And the other is that these people are involved in a plot to oust the president. And those are two very different things. You know? Kasi yung sinasabi nilang Red October plot to oust President Duterte, wala kaming alam at kinalaman doon. We do not advocate sedition. That's not on our agenda. But we do give a lot of importance to academic freedom, and mamaya we can talk more about what that means. So, ang sinasabi ko lang, while matagal na kaming ina-accuse na maraming rebelding mga tao at ideyan na nagmumula sa UP, iba yon sa pagsabi na pag-accuse sa amin directly na involved kami sa any kind of plot to oust the president.
Right.
That we categorically deny.
Right. You mentioned, sir, it's something that UP's used to. It's not a new claim for the university. But could the same be said for Ateneo?
well, yes. Let me just perhaps mention a bit of a difference in perspective. Our reading of the statements of the military made, as reported in media, was that the recruitment was supposedly happening in the campuses. And we really didn't take that to mean that there was witting allowance or witting involvement of university administration
Yes.
in such a. So we didn't really see it that way. But as to the statement that there perhaps was some influencing going on, we were not surprised, being an academic institution, when all sorts of influences are able to come in,
Yes.
as expressed by various quarters and various elements of the university community. We were not at all surprised. It wasn't really a new revelation to us. But regarding the record, perhaps of such a phenomenon going on in our own university, I must say that we aren't on the same level as UP in terms of the perception that since time immemorial of UP, it has really showed. I heard from VP Butch earlier saying about principled resistance na sana. Certainly UP yan ang the tag and the a very proud con of it. I must say that I am partly UP myself. Even though I'm an administrator of the Ateneo de Manila, I went to law school in UP. No? But well, of course, on that level of militants or kwan, hindi naman ganun ka-level yung Ateneo. But I must say that from the beginning, because of Catholic social thought and our obligation to our students to help them discern critically, we have also had a history of in every administration pointing out what needs to be pointed out, as and if this would convince our students to discern in whatever way to be to whatever way to go in society, then it's a product of the holistic education.
Right.
In the end, they choose.
Right. I mean, that's something common, right? For all universities, UP and Ateneo included, that they all highlighted the need to it's not a surprise because that's precisely what academic freedom is, and you highlighted the need to protect that. Yeah. So
in fact, Sophia, even before we get to the issue of academic freedom, let's remind ourselves what universities exist for. No, we do not exist mainly to go out and rally against this and that. We do not exist mainly to protest things. Universities were created for two basic reasons. One is to produce new knowledge, and the second is to educate people, okay, to prepare the next generation for positions of responsibility and leadership in society. But to perform these functions, we need to encourage critical thinking. We need to be able to employ reason so that students are able to discern the truth for themselves and to figure out for themselves what's right and wrong. Kaya doon nagmumula ang pangailangan ng academic freedom, which to my mind is basically the freedom to teach, to study, and to do research for the advancement of knowledge. Hindi nga nauuna dyan yung anti-government ka o kaliwa ka. This attitude of critical thinking is essential to the advancement of knowledge. And part of that is really a rejection of the status quo in many cases, or at least a questioning of what you see before you. Kaya inbred yan sa aming tradisyon, and this is also true for Ateneo, La Salle, and other universities, this attitude of liberal thinking, of liberal with a small L, I must emphasize, okay? Na talagang bukas yung utak mo sa lahat ng possibilities, and you use reason to map the way forward.
Right, sir. But then some would argue, right, that schools shouldn't be making, let's say, political statements. When we talk about academic freedom and discussion is brought, I mean, people take a stand sometimes, and they argue that they shouldn't make political statements. This is something that was also uttered by the CHED chair, Prospero de Vera. He said that free thinking should be promoted, but not to the point that political statements are made. I just want to know your thoughts. What do you make of this? Is there a limit to academic freedom?
The political statements are part of a person's education, okay? Because political statements can go this way or that, but politics is really the practice of power in society and how people relate to each other, and that's part of any student's education. We might as well say that Rizal should not have written his novels because they're political statements. Kaya alam ko naman ang siguro ang tinutukoy ng ating CHED chair, na wag umabot sa ganitong extreme, mga ganyan. Pero I'm sure he would agree with me, being a public administration expert himself, that politics and society are really intertwined and can be found in any field of study, kesa history yan, science, or the arts. Laging may papasok na politika dyan. At yung pag-uusap tungkol dyan ay kasama na sa edukasyon ng isang estudyante.
Sa ganang akin naman, yung tungkol sa statements, maaring ang tinutukoy ni Chair Popoy, De Vera, was dapat ang mga university administrations hindi maglagay ng ano. Well, una-una, I suppose may recognition na yung mga sektor sa loob ng isang universidad, mga estudyante man yan o mga faculty, kahit yung mga empleyado siguro, kung nais nila magsalita at magpahayag ng political, ay sa tingin ko walang problema doon, because precisely in the realm of higher education and critical thinking, there are some moments where you do feel compelled to state what the truth is as far as you're concerned. No? Now, pagdating sa university administration, ang totoo niyan ay hindi ako sangayon ako hindi naman dapat nagiging partisan politically, no? Pero ang masasabi ko lang ang mga pahayag ng aming pamunuan, no, through our Father President na sa kanyang pagpapahayag ay sa tingin ko lampas naman sa politika, hindi naman talaga partisan political yung mga statement kundi pagpapahayag ng mga posisyon sa larangan ng etika o moralidad o kahit sa Ateneo pati sa larangan ng pananampalataya may kaugnayan po yun, no? So tingin ko hindi naman labag, no, doon sa restriction na maging politically partisan ang aming administrasyon.
Yes.
Focusing on what's true, no? Parang the values and everything that's different from, as you mentioned before, different from taking a political stand. Let's zoom out a little bit. You mentioned, I mean, when the statements came out, the reaction of a lot of university officials, different from student groups and faculties, but they always emphasize the role of schools in democracy,
Yes.
in nation building. Can we talk a little bit more about that? I mean, yeah. It might when statements are made and the university said we're not being contrary. We're just it's part of our role in ensuring a functioning democracy. Let's talk a little bit more about that. It may not be clear to some people, right? Because schools, they're in a little bit. They exist a little bit in their own zone, in the sense that. But what is their role, let's say, in ensuring that functioning democracy?
Well, again, as I said, aside from producing new knowledge through research, our basic function is teaching the next generation of Filipinos. At hindi lang basta-basta Filipinos. We, especially sa UP, and I'm sure also sa Ateneo, we see ourselves as producers of Filipino leaders of tomorrow, which is why we pay special attention to their values, to their sense of nationalism, of love of country, of engagement with the rest of the people. We do not, in other words, we do not just produce followers. We produce leaders, and learning for leadership requires critical thinking. Learning to be a follower requires just blind obedience. Kaya dito siguro nagkakaiba ang UP among other universities kasi talaga namang from the very beginning of our university, ang mission niyan ay mag-produce ng mga mamumuno. At nakikita naman natin yan. Kaya kahit nga sinasabi pa nila na ang UP, pugad ng mga komunista yan at puro kaliwa ang mga tao dyan. Hindi po totoo yun. In fact, ang karamihan ng mga taong gumagraduate sa UP ay hindi kaliwa, hindi komunista. We have produced so many presidents. We have produced leaders in all the political parties. And that's important to us, you know, that there is a broad representation of beliefs in our graduates. But what distinguishes them, I hope, is that they share a fundamental sense of responsibility to our people.
Right. On my part, I just that's why I opened this and put on my glasses. I suppose it's best to just quote from the statement of our Father President, no, on the matter. It's very clear that the Ateneo as an academic institution will not shirk from its mission to holistically educate, no, the youth, as VP Butch has mentioned. But apart from that, we feel that we should continue encouraging faculty and students to think critically, to exercise academic freedom in search for the truth, and to speak the truth to power when need be, because it's important. We do feel it's a role of every university,
Yes.
to contribute to the attainment of a more vibrant democracy, and particularly because of the character of Ateneo as a Catholic higher educational institution, this matter of speaking about positions and, if need be, pointing out to government, to power, no? That certain things perhaps need to be revisited, to be reviewed, no? It's really part of the function of the well-established and long-standing support of our university, as with any other university, for democratic attainment, no? Better democracy and better governance, no? As I mentioned, a role that all of academia is expected to play. So it's our role to point out truth to power at times.
Yes.
Right, sir. Would you say, I mean, zooming out a little bit, apart from the red tagging, we've also seen other government policies that have directly affected students in the sense that, such as, let's say, mandatory drug testing, or the fact that uniformed policemen, uniformed officers have visited campuses. I think this is something that's been experienced by both Ateneo and LaSalle. What are some of the challenges are there new challenges that universities face under this administration, or what are some of the challenges that you face today that are a little bit more unique than before?
Well, I think in our case, for example, again, zooming out a bit, administratively, some of the new challenges that we're dealing with are like the challenges posed by the Freedom of Information Act, the Privacy Act. Mga bagong bagay ito kasi nga living in this digital age na kailangan mag-adjust din kaming lahat. Ano? And I think this is to some extent beyond politics. I mean, things that any modern university has to deal with. Of course, sa UP naman ngayon, isa pang pinag-a-adjustan namin ay itong bagong patakaran na free tuition. Ano, na I think on the whole is really good for a lot of our poor Filipino students. Of course, sa UP, less ang impact niyan kasi most of our students naman can basically afford our tuition. Pero there's still certain adjustments we have to make sure that our poorest students still receive not just free tuition but also stipends. So yan naman, I think yung mga on a day-to-day basis, ito yung mga issues na madalas dumaan sa lamesa ko eh. Ano? Kung paano mag-adjust dito sa mga bagong patakaran.
Tama, echo ko lang yung sinabi ni VP Bush, yung data privacy and all of these things are certainly additional regulatory matters which our university has had to grapple with. Even if we are not the recipient of that free tuition thing because not being a state university, no, that private naman. Kahit pa paano, apektado pa rin yung Ateneo because siyempre pupunta sa UP and other state universities and colleges. No? So, in a sense, may epekto pa rin. No? Pero yung binanggit mo tungkol dun sa, maybe I think you were adverting to security-wise, is there something new that's happening now? You mentioned that have been reports of police. No? We'd like to look at it as visits. No? Yung iba nagpapakilala ang bagong station commander or ano, no? Sa amin, it's something that well, we would raise an eyebrow because it is a new thing, but nothing really which our own security officials are not able to handle or to address it. We do not really see it as something that's that calls for alarm. No, at any point we can understand that there has to be some police and administrative relation on any matter, including large universities, or the host of issues facing the safety and security of our students and all other sectors. So on those matters, although may nangyayari, hindi naman extraordinary.
I agree. Sa amin naman, sinasort out din naman namin yan very amicably, with our friends in the PNP. May mga misunderstandings now and then, pero wala namang bagay dyan na hindi napag-uusapan. In principle naman kasi, we have a long-standing agreement with the police. Kasi may sariling police force ang UP, which is also, of course, under the PNP. from the days of martial law, may long-standing agreement ang UP tsaka yung DND noon na kung may papasok na militar o pulis sa UP ay ipagpapaalam muna sa administrasyon. And on the whole, nasusundan naman yun. Kaya I don't see this as a real problem. Of course, we need the police to protect us. We need the police to enforce the law and to help us seek justice where it is needed. Kaya to be very clear about that, hindi naman tinitingnan yung police o even yung militar bilang kaaway. Dapat nga nagtutulungan tayo para sa kapayapaan ng ating bansa.
On that note also, a few weeks after the statements were made, the AFP and PNP said that they would try to coordinate, pursue dialogue with schools, to address the claims that they made. Did they make any moves to involve themselves, to reach out, and what?
On the side of Catholic educational institutions, I just made aware recently that there was some sort of discussion, a dialogue, a very, very constructive one. I am told, I wasn't there myself, but I'm told that there was such a discussion on that level, because we do have this Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, where all Catholic universities, colleges, and schools are represented, are expected to be active members of such an association. And so the leadership of that association, I understand, had such a discussion. And as I said, it turns out, okay naman, mukhang nagkakaintindihan naman na any moves that may have been undertaken in the past were meant to be constructive and this way. And so that certainly opened an avenue for continuing discussions.
Hindi pa ako aware ng any direct approaches specific to that topic, ng Red October, yung mga ganyan. Pero we are in constant dialogue naman with our other partners in government about these matters. Of course, the chair is also the chair of our Board of Regents. Kaya lagi namang may continuing discussion of these matters, and I think this will get sorted out.
A little bit, just a little bit on the students themselves, no?
Yes.
Well, not just the statements made, but just in general, we've seen them be. I mean, would you say that they're students now are a little bit more engaged in current events? Is that part of? What's the atmosphere like in the schools in terms of how students are feeling? Nowadays.
There's such a large student population in our university, all through from basic education all the way to our professional schools, no? But there would be groups of students who feel compelled, given their own advocacies and interests, to be more active about this. But I must say that if I say that that's a majority view, I think I cannot say that, because the large majority of ordinary students would not be in the same level of socio-political involvement as others who feel they should be. That is their role in these organizations that they are a part of, whether it will be our sanggunian, mga mag-aaral of our Loyola schools, or members of the student councils of our various professional schools. They do have inclination to speak out, when things need to be spoken of, But it should really just be mentioned that where they do speak, they perhaps speak for certain sectors that they belong to, organizations, even as representatives of the students in the student council. But there certainly are other groups of students who would even think quite differently, from those who mentioned that. And that's the beauty, I think, of having an academic institution. And say what you think, what you believe is the truth based on your own appreciation of it through studies perhaps that you have in school, but not necessarily limited to that. No? Even other even sources of data information that may not be taken from the formal classroom settings, etc. These are all part and parcel of the holistic discernment of knowledge and truth.
Yeah, and I think the term engagement really needs to be qualified because it covers a whole lot of things. Tandaan natin na noong panahon ng batas militar, basically, kung hindi ka pro, against ka. At kung against ka, halos wala ka namang choice noon kung di pumunta sa kaliwa. Because they were really the only organized force. But in the intervening decades, particularly after EDSA, we've seen the rise of NGOs, of civil society. In other words, yung mga kabataan natin ngayon, marami na rin silang options to express their desire to be engaged in socially positive pursuits. Kaya what I'm pointing out is that kahit sa UP, and this is my I must say my personal perception as a professor there for 35 years, what I see is that UP's heart is really neither on the right nor the left, but in that great liberal middle. Again, liberal with a small L. Ano? Ito yung mga tao na talagang gusto lang nila basically makapag-aral, makapagturo, makatulong sa bayan, and they need freedom to be able to do that. And we may argue among ourselves passionately about general education, ilan bang units ng humanities, ilan bang units ng science. Pwede mag-away-away kami tungkol dyan. Pero pagdating doon sa threats to our academic freedom, our freedom to study, our freedom to teach, our freedom to express ourselves and to say what we think about what's going on, ay magkakaisa agad kami dyan. No? Na hindi pwedeng ma-restrict yung freedom na yan. Kaya dapat hindi talaga nag-aalala ang mga tao sa mga nangyayari sa pamantasan natin. Kasi most of the time naman, we're too busy studying and teaching. In fact, and let me just make a little plug. Despite all this, or to some extent maybe because of the fact that we encourage critical thinking and defend academic freedom, I must proudly report that just a couple of days ago, UP was rated number 72 among the top 100 universities in Asia. That includes China and Japan, and that's a big accomplishment. Ibig sabihin, hindi naman kami natutulog, hindi naman kami puro protesta lang. Kasama yung protesta sa trabaho ng universidad para mapangalagaan yung kalayaan niya na mag-aral, magtrabaho, ayan, mag-research, magturo.
Pwede kong susugal lang before na. Sang-ayon ako, ganun nga, yung engagement, this time, I suppose I should qualify what I said earlier about the vast majority of the students not being perhaps very vocally, politically engaged, but there certainly is engagement, no? Kasi may mga, I think you might know yourself, no? Na at least sa aming undergraduate levels, kami nga, Prof. Butch, ang tingin kong university na pinakamalaki ang core curriculum in the whole world.
Yes.
I'm not even mentioning just the Philippines, but in the whole world, no? We have this core of courses, which is 70 plus units now, which every student has to take, and it's largely humanities and liberal arts, so that parang sabi nga nila, every graduate is a humanities major, no?
Yes.
And part of that, part of the kalakaran po sa aming undergraduate levels is a really intensive type of formation program, which includes social formation involvement. So meron ding maybe not as pronouncedly political, but certainly in terms of social engagement ng mga estudyante, lahat po ay nabibigyan ng pagkakataon ng gawin yan. At marami sa kanila, pinagpapatuloy ito sa kanilang mga organisasyon. No? Mas marami mga estudyante actually ang pasok sa mga student organizations rather than the political organizations, no, in the university. So gusto ko lang susugan 'yon, no, katulad na sa UP, marami ang at maraming ang seryoso sa kanilang pag-aaral at dahil diyan ay yung siyempre then you have to contend with the time that you can allot, no, to being active outside of your own studies. That balance to find that is something we really hope our students can master.
Right. But at the same time, I mean, so of course we understand that academic freedom very important. How do we protect that? In light, not just in light of, I mean, not just with the statements, just how do we continue to protect academic freedom in universities so that students are free to focus? I mean, free to study, research is free to be done. Critical thinking is always encouraged.
Well, the best way to protect it is to practice it. In fact, again, let me point out that academic freedom is constitutionally guaranteed.
That's right.
And nasa Constitution natin yan. Ano ba yan? Article 14 ba yan? Section 5. Nandun yan. Ano? For higher institutions of higher learning, the right academic freedom is guaranteed. In our UP charter, it's also guaranteed. And our charter says the university has the right and responsibility to practice academic freedom. Kaya, you know, it shouldn't be a big deal. Kasi habang nagtuturo ka, using reason as your guiding star, I mean the truth actually is as your guiding star. You're already practicing it. Nagkakaproblema lang naman dyan when there are perceived infringements. Ano? Pagka kinokurtail yan, nagkakaroon ng issue. But most of the time, even without your thinking about it, ginagawa mo na yan eh. Lalong-lalo na nga sa UP, where we encourage, sa UP nga, and I'm sure also in other schools, we encourage students to ask us, to sometimes even to criticize what we say. Ano? Totoo ba'y sinasabi ko? Hindi. Bakit? Ganyang klaseng openness. Kasi iyan na nakakapagturo sa estudyante kung ano yung tama at mali. Kaya, yun mismo, you know, again, 90% of the time, it's happening.
Yeah, same thing, Sophia. It really is, when you say, what can we do to protect it, is it really under any dire threats at the moment? Hindi ko naman, personally, hindi ko naman nakikitang ganun nga ang kwan. Medyo na-emphasize yung ibang mga issue, lalo na dahil dito sa Red October kwan. Ano? Pero tingin ko, in the end, sa ngayon, hindi naman ganun kasidhi, no? ang any threat, kung meron man, sa ability ng aming pamantasan or other universities, for that matter, to continue and promote and advance and do things with academic freedom. I think it's alive and well for the most part.
Oo, nagkaka-threat lang naman yan. Or at least may perceived threat. Kung may halimbawa, may mga makikita mo to sa internet, may mga troll na magsasabi, ay, isara na yung UP na yan, o tanggalan na ng pondo yan. Kasi kung government institution ka, which we admittedly are, and proudly are, dapat sumusuporta kayo 100% sa gobyerno. Pero let's not forget that governments change. Ano? In fact, sometimes they change from left to right and right to left. But the function of the university does not, and the values that guide universities do not. Like our search for truth, for justice. Kahit sino pang gobyerno dyan, hindi nagbabago yan. Kaya ang responsibilidad ng pamantasan ay hindi talaga sa gobyerno, kahit ano pang gobyerno, kundi sa katotohanan at sa katarungan.
Kung binanggit lang ni VP Butch yung governments go left to right, right to left, Pati naman ang mga graduates namin ay
Totoo rin yan.
left, may
Tama.
right, may, di ba? May
Tama yan.
gitna, may et cetera. So, in the end nga, hindi naman po pwedeng sabihin na ang anumang universidad ay may pagkiling sa pag-produce ng ganitong klaseng graduate. No?
Oo.
Yan ay batay lamang sa kanilang mga choices at the end, no? After they do receive the education that any university gives. No? In the end, we, in our best efforts, give them the education and with the character that the university stands for. And in the end, as graduates, they must discern, no? Be able to discern and choose for themselves critically what to do with this knowledge that they have imbibed, no? Through their university education, and to go off and become responsible, productive citizens of the country in the way that they feel they can be,
and in the way that they were taught in those universities when they essentially, because they learn critical thinking and everything, they're allowed to be able to do that.
But my point is, we any university does not say we will produce only students who will support the status quo every time. No. What is taught is be critical. This is the truth, but be critical about it. Question it, turn it upside down, and apply it to situations. And that is in other words, they're being taught how to think.
Right.
It should be that sort of outcome.
Right. So, I mean, whether or not the dust has settled, what's for sure is that universities will continue to have their role and to play their role. And on that note, thank you very much for joining us today, VP Dalisay and VP Papalenia. We hope to have you again soon on Rappler.
Anytime.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. That was VP Dalisay and VP Hofalenyo of UP Ateneo. I'm Sofia Tamar Cruz. Join us again next time.